Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at Mauritius.
Yep, we've sifted through news reports, economic data, human rights stuff, political analysis.
Right, all sorts. The mission really is to pull out the key developments and get a handle on where things stand right now.
Exactly. And you see how it all connects: the politics, the economy, social issues. It's quite a picture.
So let's dive in. The big political news was that November 2024 election.
Oh, yeah, a massive landslide for the Alliance du Changement.
60 out of 62 seats, that's dominant.
It really is. And Dr. Rangulam is back as PM, holding a lot of key portfolios, too: finance, defense, home affairs.
Wow. So with that kind of power, we might expect some pretty big policy shifts.
You'd think so. It gives them a strong hand to push their agenda. And, electoral reform keeps popping up in Mauritius.
That's been talked about for ages, hasn't it?
Yeah, going way back. This mandate might be the moment for it.
But, okay, new government, but some old problems seem to linger. Governance, corruption concerns.
Well, exactly. Reports like the BTI Project, the Corruption Perception Index, even Moody's downgrade mentioned institutional weakness.
So a change at the top doesn't just wipe the slate clean.
Not automatically, no.
Huh.
The U.S. State Department report from 22, for instance, it flagged things like cruel treatment, arbitrary arrests, corruption.
And we saw recent news too, didn't we? The former central bank governor rearrested.
Yeah, in January 25. Plus those statements in April about past financial irregularities. It shows these issues are still very much live.
And before the election, there was that whole social media shutdown. Temporarily.
Right over those leaked phone calls. National security was the official reason. Illegal postings.
Caused quite a stir, I imagine.
It did. Lots of criticism from business, civil society. The government claimed manipulation. Others said the calls were authentic.
They lifted the ban after the pushback.
They did. It really highlights that tension, between security claims and freedom of expression.
Okay, let's shift gears. The economy. Looks like some recovery post-COVID.
Yeah, definitely. They got back their upper middle income status, which is good. Strong GDP growth in 22 and 23.
Driven by tourism mostly?
Tourism services, yeah. Big jump in 22, still strong in 23.
But the outlook is maybe cooling off a bit.
That's the projection. Moderation for 24 and 25. Things like less public spending, weaker demand from Europe, South Africa, those kinds of factors.
So navigating those global trends is key.
Absolutely.
On the plus side, though, inflation seems to be easing up significantly.
Yeah, that's really good days. Down quite a bit by late 24 and even lower, near a 4-year low in early 25.
That must bring some relief. But what about debt?
Yeah. Public debt is still pretty high, around 87% of GDP, according to the World Bank.
A hangover from the pandemic spending.
Largely, yes. So bringing that down, fiscal consolidation, that's going to be important for, long-term stability.
And the key sectors, tourism, financial services, they're still central.
Very much so. And there's that big push for renewable energy, too.
A 60% target by 2030.
Right. But challenges remain: potential trade issues, like maybe Trump's customs surtax and these labor and skill shortages that affect competitiveness.
Unemployment was around 6.1% at the end of 23.
Yeah, so finding skilled workers is an issue.
Okay, what about social issues? Human rights concerns keep coming up in those U.S. reports.
They do. Things like gender-based violence, trafficking, arbitrary arrests, they're mentioned year on year.
But there's also talk about boosting social assistance programs.
Yes, there's definitely that focus, too. And efforts to tackle crime. We saw news about child abuse cases, drug arrests, investigations.
But the justice system itself has challenges, like court backlogs.
That was noted in the 22 report. And there was a recent conference specifically on tackling impunity in human trafficking cases.
Switching to the environment sounds like a really tough situation with water.
It does sound critical, a catastrophic scenario mentioned in March 25.
Because of low rainfall.
Yeah, really low rainfall, low reservoir levels that led to water restrictions.
Oh. And that's on top of the general climate change vulnerability for an island nation.
Exactly. Cyclones, flooding, sea level rise, potential freshwater stress. It's a major, major challenge.
Are they trying things? Coastal management, renewables?
Yes, there are efforts. Coastal zone management, that renewable target, plans for specific islands like Île Bénitier, planting campaigns. But the scale of the threat is huge.
Okay, finally, international relations. The Chagos Islands issue seems prominent.
Always. The UK agreeing in principle to hand over sovereignty was big, though the terms, especially around Diego Garcia, seem complex. Needs U.S. approval, too.
And ties with India seem strong.
Very much so. Modi visited, commitments on security, Indian investment in projects. It's a key relationship.
What about France? and the U.S. beyond Diego Garcia.
Relations with France are active joint meetings, encouraging investment. The U.S. is obviously crucial for security cooperation because of the base.
And regional?
Mauritius plays an active role. Indian Ocean Commission, SADC, COMESA, positioning itself as that gateway between Africa and Asia.
Okay, so pulling it all together, you got these big political changes, an economy recovering but facing headwinds, these persistent social issues, very real environmental threats, and this active international diplomacy.
That's a good summary. It's all interconnected.
It really is.
And it leaves you thinking, given how much Mauritius relies on tourism, which is sensitive, and how vulnerable it clearly is to climate change, how can the government possibly balance that drive for economic growth with the absolute need for long-term environmental sustainability? That feels like the core challenge.